What's up there guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to this very special episode of Derail Valley where we're going to be restoring and starting up the S060. So this one's going to be a little bit different to the usual playthrough episodes. Please do grab yourself a drink, let's hit the rails. Okay then guys, so at the end of the last video we pulled her into this repair lane, and so the first thing that we're going to be doing today is repairing her. We're then going to be repainting her, oiling her, refueling her. We're going to discuss the components of the locomotive before starting her up. So this is not only your restoration guide, but it's also a guide to how to start up the S060. So if you're using one of the Derail Valley S060s found around the map, then you will be able to use this guide in order to start her up as well. So previously we'd taken the steps of ordering the boiler, and in the last episode we brought the boiler back here and we installed the boiler. And the good news is that the developer recently made a change to this process, because when you install the boiler now on a steam locomotive, you get the optimal level of water in there already, so you don't need to go filling it up, which I think for some players was a little bit confusing to get you started. I mean, we'll go into more detail about this process later in the video, but for now guys, we're going to get started with the repair process, so let's crack on. So what we're going to do is take the first steps now in getting her repaired. So I'm going to pop around to the other side here, and we pulled it into place last time, and we are now going to go ahead and actually get her repaired. So this is the correct locomotive. The L-026 is her code, and that's up above us there. So now we're literally just going to pull these handles. So the first one is repairing the mechanical powertrain. So this is going to be an expensive process. And next one is to repair the wheels. And as you can see already, we've got 20,000 on the mechanical powertrain. The wheels are going to rack up 28,000. Let's just move along a little bit. Next up, the body. I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's done though. So 25,000 on the body. We're going to put a load of oil in. So oil is really important with the steam locos, and I'm going to show you why in just a moment, because we're going to get her all oiled up. Sand next. Hopefully this shouldn't be too expensive in terms of the sand. But there we go. That's all done now. So she should be fully repaired once we stick our wallet in here. And it's going to cost us nearly 75,000 to do this. Thankfully, we've got a decent amount of money on hand. But there we go. That's all done. As you can see, the most expensive part was the wheels for some reason. But there we go. Right. So she is now repaired. So the next step here for us is to repaint her. So guys, let's grab the paint gun, which I already have in our inventory here, and we want to be doing some sanding first. So we'll go ahead and put the gun into our hand. We can then put the sand in there, and now I'm going to sand her down and get rid of all this rust. I'm going to do the same with the externals. As you can see there, we're down to bare metal. So we'll grab the sand and put it in there as well. I'll hop up here, and here we go. And as you can see there, again, we are down to bare metal, and I'm going to hop down here and do that as well. Right, okay, next up, let's grab our demonstrator paint. So here we go. Let's get the outside done first. Can't wait to see this. Let's just put that gun down. Wow, look at that. Wow, she looks really good. Yep, absolutely stunning. I love that paint job. Right, let's hop up here, and we'll paint the inside as well. Here we go. Wow, again, look at that now. So it'd be better with the cab light on, which will be firing up in just a moment. But look at this, guys. Absolutely stunning. Well worth it. Absolutely incredible. Right, let's hop down and take a look at the finished product. So there we go. We can see the external and the internal there, and it looks absolutely incredible. Right guys, the next things that we're going to need in order to progress, we're going to need a few items, so I'll see you guys over at the shop. Right then guys, we've come to the shop here in Harbour Town, although you can go to any shop on the map. They all sell the things that you need to get started with a steam locomotive. So there's a few things that we need from here, so I'm going to grab the zapper just before we go any further. So let's get that. So first things first, you're going to need a shovel. So here we are with the standard shovel. So I've just added that to my cart. So this is the standard shovel. This is the one we're going to be using for this tutorial, but there are 3 in total in this game. So there's the standard, there's the golden shovel, which puts a total quantity of coal in the firebox, which completely fills the firebox in one go, in one shovel load, which is quite fun. There's also an expert shovel, which puts smaller amounts of coal into the firebox, which allows you to finely tune the amount of coal that you've got in the firebox at any given time, which can be useful for running the train efficiently. We're going to be using the standard shovel for this tutorial, so we've got that in there. Right, next up, we're going to need the oiler. So let's just have a look. So here's the oiler. So we'll add that to the cart as well. So this is absolutely necessary for lubricating steam engines. So we've got that now as well. You also need a lighter. So in order to light the fire, you do need a lighter. Now we've already got one actually. We've got one in our inventory and we've had it in there for some time. So that's there. But yes, you will need that if you want to get started. So a bit of a luxury one, but one which is nice to have, is the end of train lantern. So for the S060, you don't have a rear tail light, so you want to have an end of train lantern to go on the end of your locomotive or at the end of the train. So we'll pop that there. What else? Well, in here, there's actually a steam checklist. So this has been improved to give it a bit more texture. It's got the steps in here required to get a loco going, a steam loco. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to get started, but I'm going to grab this anyway because I want to install this in my my own loco, just as kind of a nice little touch. So that's now purchased as well, once we put the money in here. So 2,300 for all of those things. The lighter isn't a great deal, so it's not an expensive outing, this really. But there we go. So there's our things. I'm going to put the shovel in first, oil a second. I'm going to put the lighter there as well. And I've also got a lantern that I previously picked up. You might want one of those because it's difficult to see in the steam loco as well. Right, so they're now all in our inventory. So I'll see you back at City South. So here we are back at City South, back at the museum with our wonderful 060, and we've got the micro shunter in place for a reason, because we're going to be pulling this 060 out of this lane into this one for watering, and then into this one for coal as well. So that'll be her refueled, and then we can start the startup process. But what we're going to be doing first, actually, before we even think about moving her, is making sure that the bearings are all lubricated, because if we don't do that, we're going to do damage to the actual bearings and actually cause ourselves a higher bill the next time we come to manually service her. So I just want to show you something first off. So I'll just hop up here, and if I just hit F4 to start off with, you'll see here that there's a flashing light here over the lubricator. So that's telling us that there's no lubrication on the bearings, and that's a step that we need to take in order to make sure that that's done first. So let's hit F4, and I'm going to hop down. And the first thing I want to show you is the actual lubricator itself. So at the front here, you have the lubricator actually, but you can't really see it in the dark here. It's difficult to see in the daylight anyway. So let's grab the torch and I'll flick this baby on. And from when we've just repaired her, we put oil in, and that oil goes into that left bar there. So you might see there's a left and a right bar. Well, currently the right bar is completely empty. So the left bar's brown, but the right bar is black, which means it's empty. So what we need to do is to lubricate the bearings, and once the bearings are lubricated, that right bar will be full. So let's just put the torch away a sec, and all we're going to do is just hold this handle, and it'll be very difficult to see in this dark, but that right bar is now filling up with the brown oil. And that should be about it, I would have thought. So let's have a look. So as you can now see there, both bars are now brown. The left bar it's got a tiny bit out of it, and that's because it's gone into lubricating the bearings. So that part's done. So that's step one. Step two of lubricating is to open up these caps. So there's 3 on each side. That one's down there. It's actually quite difficult to get to. There we go. We'll do these 2 as well. Right, once they're open, you want the oiler. And then we're just literally going to hold down the mouse button and fill up these oiling points, basically, with oil. And as you can see, that's going in. Same with these. And we'll move around this side. Whoops, we've gone a little bit too far there. So we'll just come in here. And the same with this one. Once that's done, you can just close the caps again. Nearly went past that one there. We'll close those. And now when we hop inside and we hit F4, you'll see that that light is no longer flashing. And we have used a little bit of oil out of there as well. So if you'd noticed that before, actually was completely full with oil. Now some of it has been used. Okay, so following that, the next step is going to be to refill the water tanks with water. So let's just ensure the parking brake's off, which it wasn't. So that's now off. And we're also going to open this in case I forget to do it later. But also it's good to have it open anyway, just when you're moving it at this early stage. So that's the cylinder cocks. What I'm going to do is go through all of the external and internal components before we actually start her up. So don't worry about anything that I'm doing there. We will go through it all in detail. So I'm just setting my micro shunter here to be able to move forward. So we'll just have everything ready. I've just got the remote control here as well. So let's now pull forward. Okay, so we're going to rotate round into the water lane, which is just this one here. So we want to be just moving or just one along. Okay, so we're about to reverse her in here, which will put her into the position of being refueled with water firstly. I just wanted to mention then some of the changes that have been made with this game recently. So before the latest update, which is 9.9.4 currently, you had to actually fill the tanks and use that water in the tanks to fill the boiler. That was quite time consuming, and I think it was also quite confusing to people, because what happened at that stage, once you'd filled the tanks, you then had to filter it into the boiler, and that was something that took quite a while for it to actually register in terms of the water. It did not register on the boiler until you'd gone through about 1.5 tanks of water. So you had to fill the tanks, put that water into the boiler, which took about, say, 10 minutes, and then you had to refill your tanks again, put the water into the boiler without seeing any significant impact on what was happening until you had about 1.5 tanks in there. And then that would actually then register. But the thing is what could actually happen in that process as well, you'd fill the tanks and you'd assume maybe that the boiler water had actually gone in as well, but it hadn't. You'd fire her up and the whole train, the whole locomotive would go bang. It would actually explode because you didn't actually have any water in the boiler. So what they've now done is, when you've bought the boiler from Machine Factory in town and brought it back here and had it installed, it now has the optimum amount of water in the boiler. What you do need to do though is to fill the tanks. So hopefully that's clear. It's a lot easier now. It makes more sense and it's easier to understand and to see things register. So I'll just hop inside to show you quickly again on the F4. Is to show you on the water here, it's actually got the optimum amount of water in the boiler. It doesn't have any water at all in the tanks. And you can see here as well on this gauge, which we'll go through in more detail when I do the internal run through. But this is actually in the exact position that it needs to be in for you to start up the train. So what we're now going to do is talk about positioning. So I'm going to hop up here and I'm going to show you firstly that what we want to do is to line this pipe up with either this tank opening here or this one. Now, this is the one to go for because it's on this side. So I'm going to open this up and I want to show you firstly by shining a torch in there that this tank is empty. You can tell it's empty because this gauge is showing. When there's water in there, this gauge does not show. It shows up to a certain level and you can see the water in there. Otherwise, guys, we're going to leave this open and prepare to reverse her in. I'm also going to go down here and make a little bit of preparation. So this pipe is not in the right place. This pipe is movable by turning this handle. So I'm just going to use Alt here to hover over here. And you can rotate this either clockwise or anti-clockwise. And this pipe rotates at the same direction by which you're turning this handle. So I'm sort of going to put it there. It's probably not in the right place as I've just fallen in the pit as well. But it's okay. We can make some slight adjustments as we get closer. So I'm going to grab my micro shunter control. I'm going to put her into reverse and I'm going to start the pushback that we need here. As you can see, it's misaligned already. There's going to be two pings that you should hear as we approach. There's a ping to say that you're in the right place in terms of the loco being on the pressure pad. There's another ping to say that you are in the right place in terms of the pipe being directly over this infill hole. Wow, it's raining cats and dogs out there. Thankfully, it's no longer raining in the museum. Because that was a thing previously. There was a ping there to say that we're in the right place. I was slightly talking over it, but you might have heard it still. Now you can see the tank opening is there. We are misaligned currently. So what I'm going to do is just push it back a tiny bit more. Now we are kind of in the right place there. Still misaligned. I'm going to hop up and see how that is. And yes, I just need to rotate her a little bit more round. So I'm going to pull the pipe round a little bit more. And did you hear that beep? That signifies that we're now in the right place. So what I'm going to do is hold this handle and I'm going to fill it with water. Okay, we've now got water in there, but we haven't paid for it, so we can't use it yet. So what I want to show you is, previously this was white, it's now blue, to say we've got water in there. But until we pay for that water, that's not classed as ours and we can't use it. So let's put the wallet in. We've now paid for it. Now that water is ours. If I hop in here and hit F4, you can see that our water tanks are now full and our boiler is still there in terms of the water is exactly the same as what it was previously. So that's actually refueled water-wise. I'm going to hop up here. I'll show you with the torch that you now can't see that meter because we now have water in there. Okay, next step. We're going to reverse it in there. So I'm going to have to pull her forward again out of here. Okay, now we're rotating round to here. And we're going to push it back. It's the same sort of thing, but it's much easier to do with the coal because you don't need to align it in terms of rotation. You just need to get it in the right place. So let's put our micro shunter into reverse. We'll get a little bit of power on. And I'm just going to go back here and actually watch here for it to be in the right place. We just overshot it there a tiny bit. So I'm just going to put her in the forward again. And just go forward a tiny bit. And there we go. She's now ready to be called up. So let's move forward and then I'll grab this handle. And there we go. So now we're going to stick the wallet in. There we go. So she's all good. So now we've got her painted, refueled, ready to be started up. Before we do anything else, I'm going to take her outside. I'm going to wait for the rain to stop, and then I'm going to do an external quick walk around, and then we're going to do a look at the internal components, and then we're going to fire her up. Alright then guys, so she's all fueled up and ready to go, but what we're going to do firstly is just do an external walk around, and I'll just walk you through some of the components that you have here. So at the front you've got headlights. These have got 3 settings, and it's a similar story at the back as well. So you've got 3 headlights at the back as well. Now as I said when we were at the shop, this baby doesn't have a tail light, so if you want to use a tail light of some description, you're going to need the end of train light, which is available from the shop, and you can just go ahead and clip that on there, and that's pretty straightforward either at the front or the back. You've got the usual buffers and the usual coupling and the brake line there as well. Okay, what else do you have? So outside you also have, as previously looked at, the lubricator as well. So we already looked at that. We know what it does. We know about the oiling points as well. Looking at the other side here, we've got 2 things up here which are going to be useful. So outside of the tank covers there, which open in order to let us in, we've got 2 things here. So we've got the compressor down here, which once the engine's fired and everything's kind of running, we can open that up, and that is used to pump air for use by pneumatic systems, so namely the brakes. Okay, so when you want your brakes to work, you need that switched on. We've also got here another handle which you turn once everything's set up, and that is the dynamo, and that uses steam to generate electricity. In this case, we're going to be using that electricity for the headlights and the cab light. Okay guys, next up we're going to be going inside for a quick run through of the internal components. Alright, so here we are inside, and it is kind of dark and dingy in here, so until you get the cab light on, it's actually very dark. Now, as we said, she doesn't have a battery as such, so we would need to fire up the locomotive and use the dynamo. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is to grab us a lantern. I'm going to pop that there, and then what I'll do is I'll just light the lantern, and we will then be using that lantern for our light. So I'll pop that up here for now, and that will give us a bit of a better light in terms of being able to see. And I'm going to move from left to right and kind of top to bottom, but it might not be exactly like that. So first up over here, we've got the headlights. We've got 3 different settings for the front and 3 different settings for the rear headlights. So as previously discussed, no tail light, it's just headlights, and those various settings go up in illumination. So it starts at the least brightest, move it up to the brightest where you've got all 3 lights on. Okay, next across we've got the injector. So this controls, well, it injects water into the boiler. It helps you to control the level of water in the boiler. And you can see on this sight glass here, this indicates what the level of water in the boiler is like. And this level should be between the bottom and between the top. This is called the nominal range. Basically, the injector allows you to put more water into the boiler. So you turn this, and as you'll see there, the water level is starting to increase, and we turn it here to reduce it. So that takes water out of the tank. So if I hit F4, you'll see that our water level in the tanks will have dropped slightly there, and our water level in the boiler will have gone up a little bit. Okay, next up, so we've got the blowdown. So this is actually used to reduce the water level in the boiler, and that's here. So this handle you turn, and that lets water out of the boiler. So that's useful if your water level's too high and you want to reduce it, you just turn that. It does have varying degrees. It can also be used as well as part of the shutdown process, but we'll get to that. Okay, so what else do we have? Well, we've got over here the blower, and this is used to increase the airflow. So basically what this does is when you're starting up, when you're stationary, it releases steam at the front of the engine, and that creates a vacuum, bringing more oxygen into the firebox, which increases the fire burn rate. So yeah, it's used when the loco is stationary. And yeah, again, you turn it, and you turn it again to disengage. So that's pretty much that. We'll be using that when we're starting up in just a moment. We've also got here the fire temperature. So this indicates currently that we have a fairly low fire temperature, as you would expect, because there's no fire at the moment. What you really want is anything around 400 degrees upwards, just to keep things running well. Down here we've got the boiler pressure. So again, we want a relatively high boiler pressure if possible. Anything around about 9 bar is good. Anything above that is fine, to be fair, because you have basically a release valve up there that releases boiler pressure. So it's quite safe to have higher boiler pressures really in this locomotive. In real life, it might be a bit of a concern, but in this loco, it's fine. I wouldn't advise having a higher pressure though, because you will use more water. It'll run the engine in a less efficient way, which over time uses more coal, has more wear and tear, all these types of things. So yeah, having a fairly balanced boiler pressure is probably quite good. What you don't want is a low boiler pressure, because it means that you're going to run out of available pressure, which means that you don't have any driving force to go forward, which could get you stuck. You might need to go and get some help from a diesel or something like that at that point. What do we have going down? So we've got the regulator here. So this opens kind of like a throttle. So that's fully open. That's fully closed. And you would apply this to move forward or backwards, depending on which way you have the reverser. So yeah, you can back off the regulator if required. But yeah, you want to basically use it to direct steam into the cylinders. And it is exactly like a pedal in a car, effectively increasing the power or decreasing it as you turn it down. What do we have next? So let's move across to the right. So we've got the chest pressure. Now, this is an important one. So you want to keep this above 3 bar. And once you use the regulator, this will then allow steam to filter through to the chest. And the chest pressure, as I said, wants to be above 3 bar so that you've got available pressure in order to power the locomotive forward. You can control that pressure in a number of ways, not only through the regulator, but we'll come to another handle in just a moment. Moving down, you've got the sand level, which is currently full. You've got the sand which can be moved here to use sand through varying degrees. So that's obviously useful if it's wet, or if you're going uphill and you want a bit of extra traction, put some sand down. It uses it and it costs to replenish it. Alright, so what else do we have? So let's move down here to the cylinder cocks. I did say it wasn't exactly going to be from left to right. So not the cylinder cocks, the cutoff we're going to go for first. So this is basically and effectively a reverser handle. Going forward to go forward, sliding it back to go back. In the center is kind of neutral, but you will notice that there's varying degrees to how much forward or reversed you can have the cutoff. Now, the cutoff, it does determine the direction of the locomotive, but it also determines the amount of torque that the locomotive is using. And it can be backed off to maintain your chest pressure. Now, all of this will become more apparent as we actually get started, and as I would back this off as we get moving. So we'll be going and using that. But what I wouldn't ever recommend doing is putting the reverser into the opposite direction of travel, because you will damage the locomotive by doing that. Next up, we've got the cylinder cocks. So these, when opened, are used to reduce the water buildup in the cylinders. So that needs to be expelled. Once these are opened, that water can then be expelled. You would do this when the locomotive's stationary. Once it's forward like that, they're then closed. We will have them open for startup. Okay, let's move across to the left and move down a bit. So next up we've got the fuel dump. Now this won't make much sense until you've got some coal actually in the firebox, and this coal dump is basically a handle that you pull back, and once you've got that pulled back you are dumping coal. Currently, if we open the firebox door, which is actually our next thing, we would be able to see in there. Now I'm going to grab the lantern here and put it on the floor and duck down, and that then allows us to see in here. Just going to dip down a bit. I'll just go down a bit. There we go. So you can now see that the firebox is quite big. Now when you've got coal in there and you want to put the fire out, you would pull that handle and that dumps the coal. In fact, I'll demonstrate this now. So we'll grab some coal, we'll stick it in there, and then I'll just pull this handle and you'll see it gets dumped. So whether that coal's on fire or not, that's how you dump it. Like I said, this is the firebox, this is the firebox door, this is the firebox handle for the door. We'll just close that for the time being, and that brings us across to the damper. So this controls the air intake into the firebox itself. This is used when driving. Currently it's fully open, although it can be closed as well by pushing it down. So up is open, down is closed. So I'll open that up because when we get started we do want to have the damper open to let oxygen in to get the fire going as much as possible. I'm just going to stand up again. Okay, moving across here, we've got the speedometer, speaks for itself, it's in kilometers per hour. We've got the bell here, which won't work currently because we don't have any power on. We've also got the wipers here, which for some reason work. I don't know why. We don't have any steam power and we don't have any electricity. These must surely run off electricity, but yet they're working. They're the only thing that works. It's actually quite weird. Alright, moving across here, we've got the whistle, which won't work currently because we don't have any steam. We've got a nice window here. We've got a door. Got the same over this side with a window and a door. And then we've got an independent brake here, which again, you open it like that. That's the independent closed. And we have got a train brake here, which is a non-self-lapping train brake. So similar to the DM3. That is currently in released state. That is hold. That is increase the amount of braking power that you've got. That is hold again. So you would increase the brakes and hold. And that is emergency when fully open. That is released again. So let's open the brake cutout, which somehow, even though we don't have the compressor on, we've got braking power. So that tells us that the reservoir currently has air in it. So by turning this, we're now in the hold position. That is the increase brake pressure, which you see that handle go up. That is now hold. That is release. That is hold. So it's possible to release and hold again. Again, increase, hold. So that means that the brakes are then applied at 1.4, shall we call that, bar pressure, which will allow the train to slowly slow down. You can increase more, or you've got emergency, which means that all of the available braking pressure has been dumped and basically, not dumped, it's been applied. So there we've got it. We can then release, meaning the brakes would hopefully be fully released. That's not actually showing as fully released, but hopefully once we get started up, that will then be released. Alright then guys, so we've got the same bar reading there as there, which means that the brake application is fully released and matches the available braking force on hand. So yes, apart from that, if we turn around, we have got the coal here. So once that is no longer showing coal there, it means that you don't have any left. We've got a hatch up here that we can hop up And we can also see the coal level here. If that doesn't have any coal in it, you don't have any. Which, yeah, you can easily get yourself into that situation. We've got the parking brake here. Again, we've got the door and window as previously discussed. Right, guys, that's all of our internal walk around done. We're now ready to start her up. Right then, guys, with the internal instructions out of the way, we're ready to start her up. I know you've been waiting for this moment, but this is how you start up the S060. So first things first, the water level is just about optimum. I'm actually quite happy with that, so that's absolutely fine. I'm going to turn this to start off with. So I'm going to open up the blower. So that, once we actually get things going, is going to pull oxygen in and allow us to have a decent fire going. I'm going to also open the fire door, like so. And I'm going to grab my shovel and actually put a full load of coal in there. Now, you can't actually see that because the lighting is really poor. But I'm going to put enough, as much as I can in there, basically, like that. And I'm going to refill my shovel, and I'm going to put that back in my inventory. Next up, I'm going to grab my lighter. I'm going to open it and light it. And then I'm going to click here to light the fire. So that's now lit. We're going to close the lighter and put it away. I'm then going to close this fire door. And you will see here that the fire temperature is increasing, which is really good. That is going nice and high. And in turn, our boiler pressure is also coming up, which is fantastic. Okay, looking over here, you'll see our water level in the boiler is also rising as the temperature goes up. That's absolutely fine. Not a problem. It's leveling off, as you'll see. Right, guys, now that those things are coming up nicely, we're going to make use of our steam by going over here, hopping up here, and we're going to open our compressor. So you hear the little audio cue there, so that tells us that our brake lines are now being sorted out with the pneumatic feed from the compressor. Next up, we're going to open our dynamo. So again, the audio cue there and the visual cue to say that the dynamo is open. So that means now that our electrics will work. So what I'm going to do is jump back in here. I'm going to throw on some headlights. As you can see at the front there, that's now lit. And I'm also going to put on the cab light. So much better for lighting, eh? I'm going to take a look at our fire, see how it's getting on. And as you can see, we've used quite a lot of coal there. So I'm going to stick some more coal in. And fill her up completely. I'm going to close this again. And I'm going to grab the lantern, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to turn the lantern off, basically. And I'm going to put it back in my inventory. Like so. And what you will now see at this stage is we've got our headlights on. We've got some steam or smoke coming out the top from our fire. Right, so now that we're back in, we can actually start looking to make some forward progress. So I'm going to push this handle forward. I'm going to ensure the brakes are released. For some reason, there is a little bit of pressure there on. And that's now dropped all the way off. So that's good. I'm going to release the parking brake. And I'm going to apply a little bit of regulator to get us moving. So as you can see there, we're starting to make some progress. You can see the cylinder cocks there are steaming, which means we're going to close them now that we're moving. You can also hear that audio cue there, just to say that it's actually incorrect. Right, I'm going to open the regulator more. I'm going to close this now that we're moving. And there we go, she's away. You see there the boiler pressure's a little high, so she's just releasing it there automatically. You can also see that our burn isn't exactly clean. Probably got a little bit too much coal in there at the moment. So So as I say there, the boiler pressure's a little high, so what we'll do is just open the regulator a bit more, get some of that boiler pressure used up. We'll also close the dampener as well, just to bring the temperature down a little bit. And that's her going forward, so what I'll do now is I'll just put some independent on. You see the fire temperature's coming down there actually, so we don't want it too low. I'll just open this again, but you should visually see a difference in the fire as well. You see it's not as bright as what it was. So we'll just close this. I'm going to put her into reverse. I'm going to put some rear headlights on. We should really, I guess, move this. Not too sure why this isn't lit up though, to be honest with you. Oh, there we go. I'm actually able to rotate that with the mouse wheel there. Ah, there we go. So you need to turn it up and then you can light it. There we go. That looks beautiful actually. Right, let's hop back in. We'll release our independent brake and we're going to get her moving backwards. So just checking the water level there, it's absolutely fine as it is. We can put water in if we actually want to there. See that water level dropping there as she's starting to move. I do need to note actually that water level in this sight reading here is based on inclination, so if you're going uphill or downhill you'll see that it's not accurate anymore. Alright, let's open the regulator. Let's get it moving. I'll show you what the acceleration's like. You see the speedometer coming up here. So they've made quite a few changes to the steam locomotives though in the new update. So this is my first time driving since the latest update. She was a lot more rapid than that before. She was much faster at acceleration, but you can see there we're already up to 30 kilometers per hour. So there we're flying. Right, I'm just going to close that and put some brakes on. So there we go. So our fire temperature's come back up, although it's dropping again now. And that's about it, guys. So for shutdown, I do want to go through this just briefly. I'm going to open the cylinder cocks because we are stopped. What else am I going to do? Well, I'm going to dump the coal. So there we go. We'll probably get environmental damage for that. If you know, let me know in the comments section if that is actually a thing or not. But there we go. Coal's being dumped, which means our fire temperature should start to drop. I'm going to close this, because why not? Right, that is about in neutral. Our independent brake is fully on, so I'm going to open the regulator fully, which should help to disperse our boiler pressure. And I'm going to actually open this as well to release some of our pressure as well that way. And as you see there, that's flying out. What I would say at this stage is have a look at your water level. Make sure it's not dropping too much. And one way that you can also get rid of your pressure is by opening your injector, getting some cold water back in there. You see this start to drop rapidly now. I mean, it's using a lot of water to do that. By the time you've dumped your coal and you're starting to see that pressure come down, really at this stage now, you could simply close this, close your blow down, and once your water level's back up to a reasonable level, you could then just let it just come down herself in pressure, and everything will just settle. And you'll see the lights go off as well as you no longer have steam available and all that type of stuff. But I'd say that water level's about right now. So I'm going to close that. I'll close this regulator as well. And that pressure will gradually just release on its own. It should come down now. But yeah, guys, that's about it, really. You can also obviously shut these things down. I'll leave that open for now. just for the exit. But yeah, doesn't she look lovely? Fantastic stuff. Really hope you enjoyed that, guys. If it was useful to you, or if you enjoyed it, please do hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please do subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell to be notified of up and coming videos. But otherwise, guys, please do take care of yourselves. I'll catch you guys again soon.